All right, well, Iran has launched the 74th wave of missiles targeting the Sultan Air Base of the United States, the United States Fifth Fleet, and Kumala. Imad Fateh, Qiyam missiles and drones have been launched, and the missiles are also targeting military bases and security centers in Tel Aviv. The IRGC has warned that if Israel and US targets Iran's energy centers, the response will be beyond expectations. Well, what does this really mean? We'll talk about this. Joining us at this point in time is Group Captain Dr. M.J. Augustine Vinod, former Indian Air Force fighter. Sir, appreciate you being here with us. When Iran says that the response is going to be beyond expectations, as a defense expert, what do you reckon they mean? Beyond expectations. I mean, that's a little vague strategy, to come about. Of course, no nation is going to reveal its strategy, but the fact of the matter is that so far Iran has been quite, destructive in terms of its intent. And so far, the pathology of the war also is with Iran. They may be the small dog with a big fight. The Americans and the Israelis definitely are taking time to get that.
Vineet, thank you for inviting. It's a very good question. In fact, yesterday, if you remember, Trump had tweeted 48 hours starting from this time, if Iran doesn't climb down from its position and not allow ships to pass through Hormuz, then starting from the best of the locations, I'll start hitting hard. Now, that has a lot of meaning. And that has come in the wake of Irani's statement and Iran's attack on Digo. Now, Vineet, I would like to take a parallel of this attack vis-a-vis the attack that Iran did on Tel Aviv. If you remember, you were talking about the opening statement, the 74th wave. Remember the first waves in the previous campaign was all over. And it didn't hit much of the targets in Israel. And I remember discussing with you and Uday on that particular wave. But as the waves progressed, you noticed the accuracy of the weapon, accuracy of the targeting also improved. Yesterday, we saw an attack on Dimona. So I feel this attack on Digo is an attack that is set out to get some feelers. I would also request you, if and when you run this program, to show a map of Digo. Digo is like a ring-shaped island. On the bottom portion is where the runway is. It's absolutely naked. In the sense, there is no blast pen, there is no shelter for aeroplanes which are parked on the runway. And in front of that, I don't know with what kind of brain anyone goes and makes, the entire fuel facility is next to the tarmac. So Digo is absolutely naked to open to attack. Yesterday, Iran has shown its resolve in attacking towards Digo. Will Americans empty Digo as after having seen what happened to Israel is point number one, Vineet. Point number two, and most important point, is Iran has proved it is not a pushover. Iran has already said the missiles that I'm using now is the old generation missile. I have not yet taken out my new generation missile. The best is yet to come. And I do not think, Vineet, it is some empty threat. I feel it has a lot of meaning.
But how do you think, the Americans and the Israelis could smell that Iran was developing a nuclear weapon but could not detect a number of these other undeclared weaponry, including intercontinental missiles that have been with Iran for a long time?
Very good question, Vineet. In fact, if you look at how North Korea went about, it went about first getting the nuclear warhead right, and then it was concentrating on delivery mechanism. Whereas Iran did exactly opposite. It worked on its complete range, Vineet, of the delivery mechanism, starting from 300 kilometers to 3,000 kilometers. So its delivery mechanism was in place. The Khurramshahr missile can carry 1.8 tons of warhead. Okay, with 1.8 tons, it can go up to 2,000 kilometers, and that is the kind of delivery it has. And swappable warhead. So if it, instead of 1.8 tons, it can carry 1 ton of extra fuel, 800 kgs or 500 kgs or even 100 kgs of nuclear warhead. Imagine the devastation it can have. So it got its basic right. So once it gets the warhead going, in no time it would have its triad going, and that is most important. We need to remember this. For us to from Pokhran to get our triad going, that is aerial launched nuclear weapon, surface to surface nuclear weapon, and submarine launched nuclear weapon, which is your dead hand. It took us more than a decade. But for Iran, the moment nuclear warhead comes into place, it may not even take a couple of years for the triad to come in place. And when that triad comes into place, it is bad news for both Israel as well as for the United States of America. Have they reached there is $1 million question. Somehow I feel they are very close to reaching or already reached there. Major General Sudhakar may bear me out on this or correct me on this, but that is my take on the subject. Will they utilize it? Will America use it first? The whale threat that Trump has given, is it a nuclear threat? These are few questions peace-loving and peace-wanting nation like us. Because for us, if these two nations don't become peaceful, our poor will suffer because we are fossil fuel, we are fossil fuel dependent nation. So is most of the nations of Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Laos, Philippines, South Korea, Japan. They are feeling the pinch already. It is 50 to 70% fuel load on most of these Southeast Asian nations. Poor will suffer beneath. So for us, peace is much more important than it is for war for Iran, Israel, and America. Beneath.
You're quite right about that. Some breaking news coming in. The Bahraini government has officially acknowledged that a Patriot interceptor missile was involved in a massive explosion that tore through the residential Mahaza area on the 9th of March. The admission comes nearly 2 weeks after the incident, shifting the narrative away from initial claims that the destruction was caused solely by an Iranian drone strike. On the day of the blast, which injured 32 civilians, including children, both Bahraini and US officials blamed Iranian aggression, specifically citing a direct hit by a drone. However, in a statement released Saturday, a Bahraini government spokesperson clarified that the Patriot air defense system had been activated to intercept an aerial threat. Also breaking news coming in, Iran has sent IRGC ground forces commander Mohammad Karami to western Iran near the Kurdish province as they prepare for a possible ground invasion by Kurdish forces. Now, this is big breaking news coming in. General Sudhakarji, how are you looking at Iran already preparing, for an on-ground, boots-on-the-ground assault by Israeli and American forces? So far, to be honest with you, the feeling, or rather the disposition that the Americans have put forth when it comes to this war has been extremely ambiguous. Donald Trump has been tiptoeing on the idea of ground invasion. He's also been tiptoeing on the idea of any continuance of this war as well. General Sudhakarji.
Yeah, Vinit, good evening. Thank you for inviting me for your show, and my compliments to very distinguished and learned co-panelist. Yes, these are very important milestones. Unfortunately, the reality either is being ignored or being glossed over. Donald Trump repeatedly is being subjected to very ambitious goals, which will come at a very prohibitive cost. And that prohibitive cost, to start with, they may have applied the very concept of, triggering insurgency from the north of Iran, northwest of Iran, Kurdish region I'm talking of. Kurdish, as you know, there are almost about 10 to 12 million Kurd population, out of which 1.5 to 2 lakh or 200,000 Kurdish are already in the group. They have been imparted with training by the CIA modules, and they have got the basic military training, and this was on the expected lines. Also, be mindful of the fact that there is an amphibious force moving closer to the Strait of Hormuz. Whether they will target Hormuz or not, I really can't say, because those who have been to Hormuz, those who know or can visualize the architecture of the defensive layout and the logistic network of Iran or IRGC, they will bear me out. It is a tall order. It is going to lead to a bloodbath. Is Donald Trump prepared to take those many body bags when the midterm elections are around the corner? Third point, the only frontier of Iran which is open to any kind of invasion or tactical incursions or strategic maneuver are the border with Pakistan. That border length is around 909 kilometers, which are devoid of contiguous mountainous features, or otherwise to one side towards Persian Gulf, it is all sea water. It's a distance of 1,700 kilometers all along the western, northwest, north, northeast, right up to the border where it starts with Pakistan. It is all mountainous. Major part of this mountainous terrain, they are forested areas up to 9,000 feet. These are all primary forest. Beyond 9,000, you have the pine vegetation, and they have almost about 47, 48 peaks, majority of which are between the range of height of 12,000 to 16,000 feet. So these are all non-navigable, non-trafficable by a vehicle. A means armored vehicle or BMPs or even the tracked vehicles or the tired vehicles. Therefore, the only area from where they can have some military conventional operation is the border with Pakistan. The latest input I have got is they have some troops quarantined. Quarantine means they are ready to be launched along the border with Pakistan. The Hepters, Chinook helicopters are already there, but the distance from the border of Pakistan to Tehran is around 1,700 kilometers. The connectivity is very poor. Therefore, the logistic echelons have to have a lot of staging points and marry up or the link up, which is therefore defying the basic tenet and logic of military operation, distance being too large. And the only option left is that perhaps the Kurdish population who have been trained by CIA will be launched for an insurgency to be triggered very soon within Iran. Now, are Iranians or IRGC or Basis Force? Basis Force in open source you will find 900,000, but actually on ground this is between 20 to 25 million, a kind of a figure which a normal ordinary man cannot even conceive, cannot perceive. That 20 million population who have been subjected to military training, ready to take up arms anytime, is a huge population. Now the concept of the military layout now, people are saying lots of things without understanding that there is nobody to talk to, there is no leadership, military leadership has been decapitated. They have to understand there is a method in this madness, and that madness is without unitary command, without the command, control, coordination, surveillance and intelligence functioning from one vertical, it is simply impossible to fire a missile which will go in for a punitive and precise target engagement. It is simply impossible. Next point I have to share with you, Vineet, is that people are ignorant that Iran also has been having a space program with collaboration with China and Russia. This space program has given them tremendous gain advantage. They may not be able to configure or have low Earth orbit satellites, but they do have a space program which is turning out to be beneficial. Next point I have to share with you or through your channel is that perhaps neither Israelis nor the Americans, they have been able to estimate or assess the real capability. This is the most unfortunate part of military science, I would say. I don't know how they have overlooked, maybe purely out of excitement, purely out of joy of having
landed. So hold on to some of those points. We have a lot of ground to cover. We are learning that sirens have started across Tel Aviv right now. This comes after Iran just launched another ballistic missile attack on central Israel. Israel says that air defenses are responding. And there is also footage that captures the moment of a cluster munition that struck a car in Tel Aviv during Iran's ballistic missile barrage this morning. These warheads, in fact, scatter multiple submunitions across wide areas, posing extreme risk to civilians and vehicles. This video shows that Iran is targeting population centers now as well. Group Captain Augustine, it seems that nothing is off the books for Iran at this point in time. You can say the same for the Americans and the Israelis as well, but when have they followed international law? But the problem here is that if nuclear facilities and if civilians are the target now, then obviously these below the belt hits are not going to be conducive to any kind of a settlement of this war, is what I believe.
You're absolutely right, Vinith. You've always been on point. See, even I was surprised at the manner in which Iran is fighting back. In fact, many of our experts could not have seen today and could not have believed on day one we would be discussing this on this day of the war, and the confidence with which Iran is saying that I have not taken out the best of my missile out of the silos. That said, people need to understand the terrain of Iran. I have flown over all parts of Iran, from Tehran to Isfahan to right from Chabahar down to Caspian Sea, on both the axes. There are two axes. Many people know Iran is more mountainous than Afghanistan. Iran does not have plain ground at all. What does that mean? And more important than that, Vineet, is the mountains there is an extension of the Caucasian mountains, which are millions of years old. They are not the young mountains of Himalayas. Those mountains are seasoned mountains. We discussed, if you remember last time, when Americans were trying to hit the so-called silos and mountains, they couldn't penetrate much because those rocks are solid rocks under which they have created these massive tunnels, of which Iran themselves have released the videos. So if Iran says that it has enough and more weapon to do enough and more damage on Israel or probably the Gusha, I think they are telling the truth, and it is not an embellishment. So that the world has to, sit up and take notice. And that is what I urge. If world do not push both these nations, that is Israel and America, to come on on the table and start discussing peace, it is game over for this blue planet, mind you. If one nuclear weapon goes through, it is going to be a barrage of nuclear weapons going up and down. What if Russia enters the fray? It is mutually assured destruction, and I'm not being
since you mentioned Russia, Vladimir Putin just released a statement. It was out on Twitter, in which he categorically said that the murder or the assassination of Khomeini cannot go unpunished. What do you make of that statement?
Putin, if you remember, Putin is not like a loudmouth like Mr. Trump. Even Trump doesn't know what he said yesterday, and he says something else the next day. The way he embarrassed the premier of Japan, you saw that.
Yeah, by mentioning Pearl Harbor.
It was. Well, yeah, and it was so embarrassing. I do not think in the modern history of the world, any premier has embarrassed any other premier like this, as Trump has been doing on many countries and many premiers. So that said, if you and I or General Sudhakarji, we cannot guarantee Trump will not press that red button. We cannot guarantee. And what if he does? And what if that spirals out of control to mutually assured destruction? I am saying this again, Vineet. We, including the largest democracy of India, of the world, which is India, we need to come, as we say in army, isolate and invest on United States of America as on yesterday. If not, I'm saying, if not, we are not looking at some peaceful times to come. Many nations are feeling the pinch.
Just hold on to that
Many,
thought.
many
We have
nations.
more ground to cover. UAE has released a statement on the attack by Iran. UAE air defenses have engaged 4 ballistic missiles, 25 UAVs in the past 24 hours. These attacks have resulted in martyrdom of 2 members of the armed forces while performing their national duty, as well as 6 fatalities of Pakistani, Nepali, Bangladeshi and Palestinian nationalities. A total of 160 people were also injured, with injuries ranging from minor to moderate and severe. The injured included nationals of several countries, including India and Bangladesh and Azerbaijan and Afghanistan, as well as Nigeria, Palestine, Sweden as well. The Ministry of Defense affirmed that it remains fully prepared and ready to deal with any threats and will firmly confront any attempts to undermine state security in a manner that ensures the protection of its sovereignty. We are also learning that Iran has warned UAE of more attacks and targeted strike on the emirate of Ras Al Khaimah. The IRGC said that we previously announced, and as we have practically proven, we will target the source of any aggression that occurs against our lands and national sovereignty. In the event of any repeated aggression launched from its territories towards Iranian islands of Abu Musa and Greater Tunb in Persia Gulf, the Iranian armed forces will place Emirate Al Khaimah under direct and devastating strikes as well. And Mr. Netanyahu has warned Iran during his visit to Dimona again. He said that Iran has proven again in the last 48 hours that it is the enemy of civilization and a danger to the free world, targeting children, families and the elderly with terror missiles, threatening Jerusalem's holy sites, launching long-range missiles and trying to blackmail the world through the Strait of Hormuz. I asked the leaders of the free world, what are you waiting for? Israel is fighting not just for itself, but for all of you. Listen in.
If anyone needed an explanation of why Iran is the enemy of civilization and the enemy and the danger to the entire world, you got it in the last 48 hours. In the last 48 hours, they fired a terror weapon on civilians, on children. There's a children's nursery here. There's an old person's home here.
General Sudhakarji, how would you respond, to what Group Captain Augustine also said that, if there is a nuclear inclusion in this hostilities, then what are we going to do? Of course, Mr. Netanyahu is talking about Iran targeting schools and kindergarten establishments, but the fact of the matter is that Iran blames and puts similar kinds of accusations on Israel as well, saying that they killed 140 schoolgirls when the war started.
Absolutely, Vinit. I tend to agree with what Group Captain Vinod has said, and the way you have progressed the discussion in this session. We need to keep in mind, whenever it suits so Israel, Netanyahu would make a statement. But as far as Iran is concerned, Iran is very clear. You see, after having lost the head of state, 49 senior important leaders, assassination of not 144 or whatever you said, is 168 girl students in that school. There is also a group of volleyball players nobody is talking about. They also were knocked off. And also subsequent assassination of very senior important security leaders and the INT leader, one after another. When a nation is pushed to a corner, despite a diplomatic success that the interlocutor was trying to announce before the world in media on 27th of February, there is no justification to actually explain the bombing these people to death. In my opinion, there has to be some rule. Every conflict, every war has got some principles, some rules. I personally feel they have gone extra mile and defied all the rules of engagement. So having said that, the question that you have framed for me indicates the following things. Firstly, the 4,000 kilometer range which this missile depicted or demonstrated yesterday by hitting one of the bases in Diego Garcia is basically speaking of two things. One, that all the red lines laid by the previous Ayatollah, they have been crossed. The previous Ayatollah had given an unwritten direction that no missiles beyond the range of certain kilometers, let's say 2400 or 2500 or say 2800 kilometers, will not be fired under any circumstances. And those missile ranges, they depict the second thing. Second thing is, Diego Garcia may not be as important as it is important for Iran to indicate that the range of this missile goes up to the northern fringes of Europe. That means all the countries in the European Union and UK will come under the range of this missile. Third thing it depicts. Third thing is, since they have shown their hand after a long 22 days of conflict, that means there is much more they yet to show. What is that much more? The ICBM, which is under development for past, they started I think in 2021 or 22, is in a very advanced stage. Whenever a conflict of this nature breaks out, there is called as a surge capability of every country. Everything gets doubled down, the fast tracked. So although manufacturing has got its limitations of curing, of joints, etc., welding, these are the problems which happen, but everything has got a solution. They get hastened up. They have developed a capability, or at least they have borrowed the capability from North Korea, from China, from Russia maybe, or Russian missiles. Offensive missiles are there already in place, and which can go up to the east coast or the central portion of America.
So we have a paucity of time. There's some more breaking news coming in. Well, the Iranian army has said that it has now shifted its war doctrine from defensive to offensive and have changed their military tactics accordingly. Also, Iran has denied targeting the UK's military base on Diego Garcia. Iran said that the base is being used by the US for defensive operations in its war with Iran. And Russia's Peskov has said that the US and Israel assassinating Iranian leaders cannot remain without consequences. Russia also said that Iran is defending itself actively against aggression. And unfortunately, we have run out of time to get any feedback for that, but Group Captain Augustine, General Sudhakarji, always a pleasure having you on the show, sir. We take a short break now. Be right back.